right, I think we are now live, guys. I want to thank everybody who is eventually going to roll in here. We've been doing a series of discussions and videos for the last few weeks, and we're going to continue doing them. And what it is we're addressing different segments of society and how those parts of society have been impacted by the pandemic. And so we've been bringing on experts, and we have brought on today a real treat, one of the best. Bella Vasta out of Phoenix, Arizona is with us today in the pet industry and her coaching pet owners, or not just owners, but people who own businesses who deal in the pet industry. That's what we're going to talk about today. And Bella, I'm going to, before I butcher it even further, I'm going to let you tell us about Jump Consulting and a little bit more about your world, if you would.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Bella Vasta. If you see me looking down, I was sharing this stream out, but I'll stop for a moment. As Bernard was saying, I am in Phoenix, Arizona, and I represent a lot of pet sitting and dog walking business owners around the world, honestly. And I met Bernard because he was so gracious to come into our COVID support group and help us break down the CARES Act, and also has collabed with me on a blog or two and really been a great support for his community. So when he said, hey, we wanted to talk about pet adoptions and how this all influencing our new life and our world, I said, absolutely. So I spend my time, I have a mastermind, I have a marketing agency side where I just come along and I support business owners. And I also do a lot of speaking on building your own community online through Facebook groups predominantly, but just how community can really help support your business as well.
Well, and I appreciate us connecting a few months ago and collaborating, and I look forward to more. But I've just been so impressed how you have built such a great audience and are so in tune with the world of businesses that deal with pet ownership, pets, etc. And it's being a dog owner myself that just, again, put it on my radar. And so that's why I wanted us to have a discussion, because there's been lots and lots of bad news out there the last couple of months. But one of the things that has been very inspiring to me, I know that locally I have seen and regionally, where shelters that have dogs for adoption have no more dogs, or reporting high numbers of adoptions, which is always very encouraging. But I know that I don't know if it's an emotional knee-jerk reaction to do this because some people are wanting comfort or things to feel good about, or maybe they just have great intentions and hopefully this will be long-term permanent adoptions for these pets. But that's why I wanted us to chat a little bit about how to deal with pet adoptions during the pandemic. And we're eventually, Bella, we're going to come out of this pandemic and we're going to resume whatever the new sense of normalcy is in our lives. I really don't like that term, but you know what I'm saying. So share with us some of the, I guess let's start with some of the concerns that maybe the business owners have about first-time pet adopters and bringing new pets into their families.
Yeah, well, everything you said is like so ridiculously great. And I think that the smart business owners are acknowledging that the shelters and the rescues are low in quantity, which honestly is what we peddle and what we try to encourage a lot of, adopt, don't shop, and all that kind of thing. And right now, the smart business owners are understanding that the boom in pet population is happening because everyone's at home and they feel like, okay, well, either they're lonely and they're doing it for a selfish reason, or maybe they're adopting a pet because they've always wanted to, and now they finally feel like they have the time. And gosh, what a great time to get a puppy through puppy training and everything when you're home all day, right? But I think the thing is that the smart business owners are realizing that these people are going to be having a problem. I always try to train my clients to think like 4, 6, 8 weeks in advance, and what kind of problems are we going to be addressing? Because if we start talking about it now, you become the leader and the authority on it, right? So things, training videos, if you're a dog trainer, to be talking about, that they're a solution, that they can come alongside and help these people. Because getting back to your original question, people at home, they're not thinking long-term. They're not thinking about shoot, what do I do when my puppy is like ringing the bell with his nose, but I'm on a Zoom call with my boss and now the puppy's peeing on the floor, right?
Right. Right.
Or, oh my gosh, we can finally get going now. Or we want to go out to dinner tonight, but you know what? My puppy's used to eating at 5:30. And then by 5:45, 6 o'clock, he actually starts going number one or number two, you know, like, what am I going to do now that they're getting back into life? And so there's a lot of problems that pet parents are going to start having. And God forbid they got him, you know, just because of a lonely or, you know, like feeling like, I want something to do, then we actually might see those shelters starting to increase with the numbers, which from a business standpoint, I hate to say this, it actually works to their advantage, right? Because then people are still adopting and people are still, you know, having this, but they're going to need help. They're going to need help because the way that this person, this dog has come into their life isn't necessarily going to be their life long term.
Yeah, and it's for family dynamics that have, when you have kids who are away from at college but are now home,
Yeah.
or you have older loved ones who are living with you temporarily, your family dynamics potentially are changing because
100%.
you're home so much more than ever and your schedule is changing.
Yes.
What's going to be interesting, as you just mentioned, is well, when the economy and society starts to open back up, which it's starting to in certain states and parts of the country, how is that going to affect the pets you have at home? Well, it's going to affect it a lot.
Yeah.
Pets that you've had for years and are used to routines and used to the people in the home, that's one thing. But bringing a new pet into the house, I don't know if it's the same as bringing a baby into the house, but it certainly is as time consuming or can be.
Yeah, it definitely is. There's so much from feeding to pooping and peeing to separation anxiety. You brought up a good point about the college kids back, and I know you've got a couple of them yourself. And that's the thing, like when fall comes, you know, because we're all out of school now, and now is the summer where everyone usually is home, but it's like an extended 6-month summer. And what do we face every fall? It's all of a sudden the dog is alone at home. The only sounds or sights they have is the Amazon man or the UPS man, right? And it's just stark silence. And they don't get the smells. They don't get mentally stimulated. They don't necessarily get to get out as much as they did when they were your companion because you were going for 3 or 4 or 5 walks a day, right? So it's going to be a major change coming up. And it's going to be an adjustment for these pets that are used to this routine that is going to drastically change because of the numbers of people in the home or just your work schedule and things. And so it might work for you now, but it is definitely, you know, very responsible to kind of think about what are we going to do to help with this transition? Because just like we have all decided and saw, you know, we've provided graphics for our clients that said things like, oh, now I get why the dog, you know, tries to dart out the door every chance it opens up, because your dogs are practically on quarantine their whole life unless you get a dog walker or a dog trainer, or you take them to doggy daycare or a boarding facility. One of the things that I was telling one of my clients, she actually has a daycare facility, a boarding facility, and they also have a pool where they swim with dogs to get their energy out. It's just really cool. I said, you know, so many people can't go on vacation right now, but that doesn't mean that their dog can't do a staycation or a spa weekend at the spa, right? So this is like another way to kind of change it up. There's a lot of opportunity right now for the pet business owners that it really, honestly, gets me so excited. But it's things that we need to be thinking about, again, 4, 6, 8 weeks in advance. How can we meet people where they're at, you know?
And Bella, we in our neighborhood, there's 2 or 3 competing companies that have mobile pet grooming and I'll call it pet attention businesses. But they've been shut down until now. Our economy is slowly rolling back out, starting now and then in the upcoming weeks. It's a graduated, and I think most states are that way. So I'm actually kind of looking forward to seeing those trucks coming back into our neighborhood and hopefully scheduling them. But before we jump to our next topic, I want to welcome folks who are watching from all different parts of the country. So thank you for joining. We've got Bella Vasta here. We're talking about pet adoptions. We're talking about that business, that segment of society that it really has changed a lot, because with a lot of people home, they have decided to adopt dogs or adopt pets to help out with some of the quarantine. But now we're a couple of months into this. And as you just said, it really is more like an extended summer. We're now in mid-May, and by August and September, at least in the South, I've seen where university chancellors and presidents are saying, we're going to be open for business. Kids are coming onto our campus. Now, what that looks like, we don't know. But what it's going to do in the family dynamics is probably some of the caregivers in the home are going to be gone. So I want to ask you, Bella, some strategies. You've mentioned a little bit before, but I think now would be a key time for families to start putting into place things that are going to be needed in the fall. So what are some things that you're thinking of that maybe for pet owners should be thinking about implementing now, so they're not at a panic come August and September?
Yeah, so it's such a great question, and again, it's about thinking ahead, right? And so the first thing that's always, that comes to mind, especially right now, is that getting someone to come alongside you and your family to really help stimulate that mental and physical well-being of those pets. When you hire a dog walker or you bring them to a facility, you want to just playfully around your own house get your pet used to seeing you in a mask. Okay. And that's something that's like a desensitization kind of thing, right? Because depending on where you want to start taking these dogs, you can't have them freaking out or wondering dogs read our facial expressions. I forget the exact number, so I don't want to say it, but it's something like, I don't even know. I'm not even going to speculate, but they read our mic expressions so fast. And that's why they can know how we feel, right? They literally are reading our face way better than any human can. So when you take almost all of that away, right? And now you can't see if I'm smiling except through my eyes. I just took away so much of my communication. And so that's going to be something that the dog is going to have to get used to. I would also start seeing okay, it's okay that you're walking them 5 times a day or they're getting out 5 times a day, right? But you want to kind of maybe start cutting that back and getting more on a regular routine that you might have been on before. Another thing that you can do is start bringing that dog walker in sooner than later, maybe just once a week, maybe twice a week. And heck, it gives you a break too, because then you can start, doing your Zoom calls without the dog barking because he's too tired to bark because he already took his walk. I always joke around that I wish pet sitters and dog walkers would also walk kids, because when my dog walker comes, I would give him my 5-year-old too and say, here, take her too.
That's right.
And I would plan my meetings around it. But this is always going to be tough if you are just adopting a puppy. But even a new dog, maybe you adopted a dog from a shelter who's not a puppy, who's maybe 2 or 3 or 4 years old, right? They still thrive on routine. They can't tell time, but they know patterns, and they know okay, it's around dinner time now. It's around sleeping time now. They still have that clock in them. So you're going to want to try to get as on schedule as you can, so that when you bring in someone to help you, when you're not there to actually do it yourself anymore, it's already kind of pre-done. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. All of this is just such solid information, guys. If you have questions for Bella as we're talking, put them in the comment section. We'll field them. We'll make sure she gets them. And I also put a link to Jump Consulting website so you guys can check out what all services and things that Bella is involved with and offers. And she speaks all over the country to organizations everywhere. She's been on TV. If you can't find her, then you're not looking. But I wanted to say, Bella, we talked earlier, I have 2 mature adopted dogs. They're Mutts in the house. And I had on a mask the other day, and I could not have envisioned more different responses. One dog thought it was a game and was ready to engage. The other one hightailed it out of the room, went straight to her safe place. And all I had done was put on the mask. I wasn't dramatic, but it was amazing the difference in the response. So now we have learned how to deal with that with the 2 dogs with the mask.
Yeah. Yeah. And it almost like makes you understand how much more voice commands are important now, right? Sit, stay, place, like, whatever it might be, right? So that might be something else that you're going to want to be working on in quarantine, like just mastering those tricks, but really, life skills, honestly, because your dog's they're only going to be able to see your eyes. They can't you know, oh, she's mad at me, or
Right.
like, you're missing so much of this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the verbal is really, like, how good is your dog on recall? How good is he at that? Because he's losing all that information.
Well, I'm convinced I have not only the smartest dog in the world, but the other one may not be. Uh, I hate to use the word dumbest, but she's working on it. But let's pivot for just a minute and go from the pet people who are bringing in pets into their house to now to pet companies and businesses, dog walkers and groomers and those kind of things. Yeah. And depending on the level of quarantine for the company, I mean, for the state or community where they live, have those companies figured out how to do business in our now virtual world? What kind of services are they? How are they pivoting? How are they doing their walking and the grooming and vets being able to do their thing?
So that's interesting, right? Because everyone's at a different spot, right? Some people are still paralyzed in fear. Some people are fighting and they are changing, and others are just doing nothing. So I'm going to tell you what I've been telling them, and what I would love to see happen. And I can't say that everyone's doing this, but I would love to hear from our viewers right now if this resonates with something that they would want. So it's pretty standard in the pet sitting, dog walking, maybe even grooming industry, for you to do some sort of a consultation where you come and you talk and you say, okay, like, this is what we can do for you. This is what we can't do for you. It's usually in your home. That's not going to fly anymore. And it's a way that it's an opportunity for us to take it virtual, to come on Zoom like we are right now, to be able to answer those questions, to give a presentation, to get that bond going with someone, arguably in an even more connective way, because now it's not just on the phone where I'm just hearing you, but now I can see you and experience you. You, like pet sitters, we've been telling them, get the laptop out, get on the floor, have your dog crawling on you as you're meeting with this client. Let them see how you are, how that interaction is. Now, it is important to meet the pets. And as a pet sitter and dog walker, it's important to get keys still. And you still have to go do that. But the amount of time that you're there, or maybe you do it outside of the house, or, now you're not coming in, sitting down, and you're there for 20 to 45 minutes or so. And that also honestly makes your business a lot more efficient, and sometimes even allows people who might not have been able to be there, because maybe they could take a break at work and jump on the Zoom call with you. They don't technically have to be home, right? And you can run through your presentation or whatever it might be. The other thing is it's about meeting people where they're at. So giving them options. Would you like me to call you? Would you like a virtual meeting? Would you like me to come into your home or do it in your front yard or something? So giving people those options is something that I think is really important. Another thing is the messaging of it. And we talked about this in our mastermind, but it was really cool. There was this company, this window installing company, that came to the HR's person's house. And I think this is for all business, you guys. And so they saw this commercial that said, hey guys, like, we're still open for business and these are the precautions we're taking. And they showed what they were doing. They showed what the person would look like when they came, the mask on, the gloves, the sanitizing, all this stuff. And this person said that before this person arrived, 2 days before, they called and they confirmed, hey, you still want us to come? Like, this is still good for you, right? Because we understand that people are fearful right now. And we're not going to go and say, well, you better have a mask on and you better have this and da-da-da-da-da. And what kind of solution are you using to clean your hands? It's an uncomfortable situation for all of us. So as business owners, we need to stand up as a leader. So back to that story, they called and they said that, but then they also said, you know what, we really care about our employees too. And so I just want to ask you a few questions. Have you or your family experienced any temperatures in the past couple of days, or, and then kind of gone through a list? Then when the gentleman showed up out front, she said he did this whole thing where he's like cleaning his hands like out of his trunk so you could almost see him do it, and put his gloves on and comes up to the door and has his mask on. And it was everything that was promised was delivered. And I even encourage my pet sitters to change out. A lot of them have like an About Us page. And I say, change out your About Us page to have the mask on. This is what my sitter is going to look like when they come up to you. Maybe you could have a couple other pictures or videos of them without the mask on. But I mean, I think this is the world we're in right now. This is when you meet someone, if this is what I'm going to look like, then show me, right? And
it's giving people a level of comfort to allow them to move from, I'm thinking about doing business with you, to actually doing business with you. And a few weeks ago, Bella, I had a restaurant owner on who's a friend of mine. He's got successful restaurants in our market. And he was explaining how his company, kind of behind the scenes where the public isn't seeing this, they're role playing and figuring out, well, what happens once the restaurants can be opened? How are we going to deal with this situation or that situation? And then once they figure that out, they're then going to roll it out to the public to show them this is how we're dealing with X, Y, and Z issues that we anticipate. And it sounds like that's exactly what your mastermind has addressed, to allow pet owners to be able to resume business with the businesses they deal with for their furry four-legged friends.
I think it's so important for business owners everywhere to realize that people are scared. Even though a lot of people are getting a lot of money right now from the government and they're getting these infusions, they're scared. They're scared for their health. They're scared to infect the rest of their family. And I think it's up to us as business owners to make that stand and to show. That's the most important part, Bernard, is show. Because if I see one more email or one more banner that says our response to COVID-19, okay, that's great. And I'm sure from a lawyer standpoint, you love that it's in writing, but I want to see it. Don't tell me it, show me it. And when you can show me it, remember that whole story I just told you is all very visual. When you can show me it and I can experience it like a phone call. Nope, no one's had a fever here, but thanks for asking about us too. Wow. You're not just trying to do this, to keep, to help us stay protected, but also you are also wanting to protect your employees. Wow, I really like your company that much more now, So I think it's really important to show a lot more. And we all have a camera in our pocket. Like, there's no excuse. There's absolutely no excuse. And people want to see it. And if you want a leg up on your competition, man, that's the easiest way right now, because not a lot of people are doing it.
That's exactly right. Whether it's in the legal markets or the pet industry or plumbing industry, getting out. And if you can't do recorded video, if you can do live video, or even better in person, like we're doing through Zoom or FaceTime or whatever, it's amazing how effective it is in comparison to just reading things, or better yet, not addressing anything and just ignoring it all and just folding your tent, which, we're now 2 months into this, or fast approaching 2 months. Maybe there is some sense of, I'm not saying the dust is settling at all on this and people are getting used to it.
I think people are coming out of shock.
Well, that's thank you. You said it much more efficiently than I could have. But what
it's time to start making decisions. It's time to start being leaders. It's time to start showing up. And what you just said was so on point about the people that aren't making the changes. I fear those are the same people that 6 months from now are going to say, COVID killed my business. And I'm going to say, no, sweetie, you killed your business.
Well, it is.
Because you didn't pivot.
Instead of just trying to survive, now's the time to start thriving. And
there's so much opportunity right now. I was one of the gals that was in our COVID group. She calls it the COVID cover. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, it's like we're all being covered right now. So we can be under here like, oh my gosh, I meant to do this. I didn't have time to do that. Shoot, I really didn't like that client. We're not asking them back. I didn't really like that employee. Never. We've always been praying for this, you guys. Your prayers, in a weird way, have been answered right now. You have time right now. You've been given the gift of time. What are you doing with it? Tell me in the comments below, because I'm going to monitor this. I want to hear it. I don't care what industry you're in. Tell me what positive changes you've made in your business right now, because if you haven't, it's not too late. It's time to get going. It's time to get out of that fear and start moving. Am I right, Bernard?
I love that you're bringing this up. It really is a time of maybe a rebirth. It's time to recreate yourself. It's time to fix any of those things that maybe the public doesn't see, but you
Yeah.
see them because it's your business, or it's parts of your personal life, whatever it is. You see all these great stories about people beginning new workout regimens or new diets or taking up a language that they never had time for. But you're so right that now is the time, and over the next upcoming months, it's time to perfect those things and roll it out and do what you haven't had time or been afraid to do. Now is that time. And folks, I don't want to get off this call without having Bella tell us how to get in touch with you. And I know there's like 10 different ways, but what's the best way to get in touch with you, Bella?
Yeah, I think you go to bellavasta.com. That's my personal brand website. I mean, unless you have a pet business, you can go to jumpconsulting.net. But I also love to make friends on Instagram. So you can follow me on Instagram at Bella Vasta. It's just right here. Pretty simple, easy name.
And I'm going to put the link to both of the websites in the comments section. So you guys, after we get finished, if you think of things you want to chat with her about that are related to coaching and businesses and things, that's what she does. She is a consultant extraordinaire. And that's why I wanted to have this discussion about the pet industry with her, which she does just so beautifully. So Bella, thank you. We could talk about any number of issues all day long, but I know we've got a lot of things going on this afternoon. So I want to thank you. Before we get off, I want to give you the last word of encouragement, of whatever you want to share with those people out there who are just needing to hear more about positive vibes, good things, because it's time to put away all the negativity in the world. There's too much of that.
Okay, then you ready? I got two of these for you. This is like my favorite jam right now. The first one is by Jim Rohn, and it's, if you really want to do something, you'll find a way. If you don't, you'll find an excuse. And the other one is from Darren Hardy, and it's you get to make choices in life, and then your choices make you. So you guys, if you're not where you want to be right now, or you have these dreams or these aspirations, I want to ask you, what are you doing today to move you just a little bit closer to it? I'll leave you with that.
Perfect. Bella, as always, it's so great to chat with you and talk about these things. So I want to thank you for your time today and your expertise. This is exactly what I was hoping we would accomplish.
My pleasure.
And guys, I'll put in the comments section our schedule that's coming up. We've got a bunch more of these on Mondays and Thursdays all through this month and hopefully into next month with industry leaders about different segments of society. And I want to thank everybody who's watched, participates, and keeps supporting what we're doing here. So you guys have a safe and excellent rest of your day, and take care.